So the large intestine, as you've seen from the models in the classroom, is a horseshoe shaped and extends from the end of the ileum to the anus. It lies inferior, so underneath the stomach and the liver, and it frames the outside of the small intestine. It's also called the large bowel. There's about 1.5 meters of it, and it's about 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters wide. Here we have a diagram of it. You can see here that it is sort of like a horseshoe shape or almost like a square. Down in the bottom part here, we've got that ileocecal valve that we were speaking about. And here we've got the parts. So we've got the ascending colon, the transverse colon which goes across, transverse. Then we've got the descending colon, down to the last piece, which is the sigmoid colon. Then you've got the rectum, and that leads to the anus. So the functions of the large intestine I've mentioned a little bit in the previous lecture, but it's mainly to reabsorb water and to the compaction of the intestinal contents of feces, the absorption of important vitamins produced by bacteria, and the storage of fecal material prior to defecation. Parts of the large intestine, you've got the cecum, which is the pouch-like first portion, the colon, which is the largest portion. There's also the appendix, called the veriform appendix, a lymphoid organ, which is becoming, more knowledge is becoming available about it, about that it has some immune properties. And then the rectum, which is the last 15 centimeters of the digestion tract before the anus. The 4 regions that I showed you on the picture previously, so the ascending going up, the transverse going across, the descending coming down, and the last bit is the last 15 centimeters is the sigmoid colon. Here we've got that diagram again. This, of course, is available in your textbooks. The rectum, as it said, forms the last 15 centimeters and is an expandable organ for temporary storage of feces, and the movement of fecal material into the rectum triggers the urge to defecate. The anal canal is the last portion of the rectum, and it contains folds called the anal columns. Anus, also called the anal orifice, is the exit of the anal canal and is made up of keratinized epidermis, like skin. It has 2 sphincters. It has an internal anal sphincter and it has an external anal sphincter. The internal anal sphincter is not under voluntary control, and that is made of smooth muscle, like the rest of a lot of the visceral organs are made of smooth muscle. The external sphincter is, however, under voluntary control, and that's under skeletal muscle control. So here you can see the anal canal. And you can see here, if I just, you can see here that we've got this bit here on both sides, this ring of muscle, because we're looking at a cross section. This is the external anal sphincter, and then you've got these bits here and here, which is the internal sphincter. So just as the previous slide said, the internal sphincter is not under voluntary control, but the external sphincter is. The histology of the large intestine, it doesn't produce enzymes, but it does produce lubrication of mucus of fecal material. It has large lymphoid nodules that are scattered throughout the lamina propria and the submucosa, and the longitudinal layer of the muscularis externa is reduced to the muscular bands of the Taeni coli. Here we've got the histological view. You can see here that it looks similar to the large intestine, the small intestine, but it hasn't got any of the finger-like projections. It's still got the intestinal crypts and the goblet cells. So the main function is the reabsorption of water, the reabsorption of bile salts, which occurs in the cecum, which is transported in blood to the liver. the absorption of vitamins produced by bacteria that are living in the large intestine, and of the absorption of organic wastes. So vitamins are organic molecules, and they are important as cofactors or coenzymes in metabolism. The normal bacteria in colon makes up 3 vitamins that supplement the diet. So the vitamins that are produced in the large intestine are vitamin K, which is fat soluble, which is required by the liver for synthesizing 4 clotting factors, including prothrombin. We'll look at these clotting factors in a few weeks' time when we look at blood. Biotin, which is water soluble, and that's important for glucose metabolism. The third vitamin is vitamin B5, pantothenic acid, which is also water soluble, and it's required for the manufacture of steroid hormones and some neurotransmitters. So vital for us to have a normally functioning bowel so that these vitamins can be produced and we can function properly. Organic waste. So bacteria also breaks down the peptides in feces and generates ammonia, which is soluble, ammonium ions, indole and scatol, which is nitrogen compounds responsible for the odor of feces, and also hydrogen sulfide, which produces that rotten egg odor. So here we've got, if we look at how the defecation reflex works, we've got starting down at the bottom of the left-hand side where you've got the red start arrow. We get a stimulation because of the stretch receptors that feces is waiting to be evacuated, and then you get spinal stimulation from the parasitic motor neurons of the sacral spinal cord, and this stimulates motor neurons, and then the reflex of the internal anal sphincter moves into the anal canal, and then you've got the voluntary contraction of the external anal canal. If the external sphincter is voluntarily relaxed, then defecation occurs. But as people know, the internal sphincter can be wanting to relax, but because we have voluntary control, we can delay going to evacuate the bowel until it's convenient, fortunately.